Hi, I've got a great study here from foodconsumer.org on February 22nd by David Liu, PhD. The study is what researchers at the University of Boston found out about people who are deficient in vitamin D and that it was common among the elderly people. The study showed during the long summer days that exposure to UVB rays from commercial tanning beds could effectively stimulate production of this essential vitamin that is now believed to provide potent anti-cancer activity among others. If you're like me, usually the first thing you're thinking right about now when someone mentions tanning bed is all the bad news you hear. The dangers you hear about all the time on using tanning beds and being in the sun. Well, this study gives you hope because what it says is basically that the vitamin D you receive from tanning and tanning beds is beneficial against many different cancers which are deadlier and less treatable than skin cancer. This study was taken with 45 nursing home residents, and it was taken by Michael Holick, who is a heavyweight vitamin D researcher and senior author of the study. The study showed that elderly were deficient in vitamin D. Vitamin D is naturally synthesized in the body while exposed to sunlight. Full exposure of both hands and the face for 15 to 20 minutes in the sun would render production of enough vitamin D3 in the person. The study also found that in regions where exposure to the sun is not as intense, people are more likely to develop a range of cancers including colon cancer, prostate, breast, and esophagus cancer, according to researchers. Vitamin D deficiency has been linked to increased risk of having hypertension, type 1 diabetes, multiple sclerosis, and other autoimmune diseases and infectious diseases including tuberculosis and influenza, in addition to the cancers. For the study, the researchers exposed 15 healthy adults aged 20 to 53 in a bathing suit 3 times per week using a commercial tanning bed that emitted UV rays. Vitamin D levels in the blood was checked weekly for 7 weeks to determine the effects. Exposure to tanning bed radiation increased vitamin D 1% per minute. One week of the exposure led to an increase in 25 to 50% vitamin D levels, and 5 weeks of exposure increased the level by 150% compared to the baseline. Vitamin D deficiency is common in both children and adults worldwide. Exposure to lamps that emit UVB radiation is an excellent source for producing vitamin D3 in the skin and especially effective in patients with fat malabsorption syndromes. So the resulting good news from this study is that we all don't have to be terrified of tanning beds and being out in the sun. Sunshine is the most abundant source of vitamin D, and there are only a limited number of foods that supply vitamin D. Some people may fear that exposure to the sun would increase the risk of skin cancer, which everybody thinks about because that's hit about so much with the media, the news, how bad it is using tanning beds and how bad to be out in the sun for very long. We're told to make sure lavish ourselves with plenty of SPF 50 sunblock so we don't get any sun because we all may come down with skin cancer. Well, actually there's research that says different than that. According to this report, the experts agree that a deficiency in vitamin D could be more serious in most cases than the risk of skin cancer, which are not as deadly. Studies have suggested that high intakes of vitamin D would drastically reduce the risk of cancer. And for you women out there, this is a big concern, with breast cancer, it reduces the risk by 70%. So we need to be getting our vitamin D either through supplements or naturally with some sun therapy. My opinion is a balanced approach using both. So get some sun, and you may even want to consider visiting a tanning bed in the cold months of the year in moderation and according to the guidelines, of course. so that you will get plenty of vitamin D to help prevent yourself from getting deadly cancers such as colon, prostate, breast, and esophagus cancer. During the cold climate, we fail to get enough sun to benefit us. If you are interested in looking at some great deals on residential tanning beds and getting some excellent information on the dangers, guidelines, and precautions when tanning, whether it be at tanning salons or a personal tanning bed you own and use in your home, a great place to look is www.lifetan.com. That's all one word, www.lifetan.com. Come visit us. Thank you.